On a special Thanksgiving edition of JWJ, we break down the biggest surprises and disappointments of the NBA season so far, and we're going to play a new game. And we'll get to some happenings around the WNBA. You know what time it is. Lace them up, lock in. JWJ. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Thanksgiving edition of the JWJ podcast. I'm Shane Thomas, joined by my co-host, my shooter on the wing, Mr. James Washington. What's going on, bruh?
Thankful to be doing this again, brother. I missed you, man. How you been?
Man, doing good, man. Doing good. I'm glad we're able to do this again, man. Thanksgiving Day. So,
Yes,
it's been a minute, but we're back and ready to talk some more hoops, man. And thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for making JWJ a part of your day. And James, let's get right into it, man. I want to talk about this NBA season, dude. Like, we got so many teams, and really want to get on this. The most improved teams in the league. We got a lot of surprises, a lot of teams, man. And what do you think about so far, like some of these teams to start the year? Who are some teams that stick out to you right now?
The biggest head scratcher to me right now is probably Utah. I always look at the Western Conference first as a Laker fan. I can't help it, but Utah definitely. We saw what Danny Ainge did when he came in. He shipped out Rudy Gobert. He shipped out Donovan Mitchell. He was looking at shopping, Jordan Clarkson. Joe Ingles is gone to Milwaukee. There's been so many moves that were made in Utah, and a lot of those moves that were made were with the impression, all these picks were coming back. Utah was starting to look like the more contemporary Oklahoma City. Danny Ainge was basically trying to tell Sam Presti to hold his beer. And next thing you know, we look up a few weeks into the season and Utah is at the top of the Western Conference. At one point, I think they were the best team in the league.
Yeah, they were number one.
And, right. And we're sitting here like, I don't think that's how that was supposed to happen. If you're, trying to go for that T word. I don't
if you're trying to brick for Vic.
Yeah, yeah, I like that. Yeah.
I saw it earlier. I can't take full credit. I saw it earlier. I like it though.
Look, shout out to Wimbenyana for your mama. Like
trade your mama for Wimbenyama.
I definitely. No, Utah is probably the biggest surprise to me. The other teams that are doing well right now, like for example, like a Portland or, even the other teams that were already expected to be there, like a Boston or, those other squads. Utah is the biggest surprise to me, only because we were all under the impression that they were making these moves because they had a plan to be bad. So Utah's probably the biggest surprise for me, but how you feeling? Like what are you looking at?
Yeah, man. Like I'm just looking at a bunch of different teams right now. I'll go ahead and rattle them off now. I mean, Cleveland right now they're 12-6 on the season. They're third in the Eastern Conference. We just mentioned Utah. They're 12-8. They're fourth in the West. Another team that I think more people will be talking about if they keep going the way they're going is Indiana. They're 10-7 on the year right now, fifth in the East. Going back out west, we have some surprises as well. Sacramento, 10-7, fifth in the West. That was a team we talked about back around draft time that we thought would be pretty good. New Orleans as well. New Orleans is 11-7. They're third in the West. I don't think anybody saw that. And there's a couple others. You mentioned Portland, who's 10-8 right now. Right now, they're ninth in the West after winning just 27 games last year and missing the playoffs by a lot. And then a couple others, Washington, 10-8 right now, sixth in the East, and the New York Knicks, who are 9-9 and seventh in the Eastern Conference right now. So we'll get into those teams a little bit more. But first, if you guys are listening to us, thanks for making us a part of your day. You can find us on YouTube. You can also find us on a variety of platforms. We are everywhere now that you could get your podcast. We're on Spotify. We just mentioned YouTube. You can find us on Anchor, but we're also just, we're pretty much everywhere now. I mean, we're on iTunes, we're on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Overcast, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music. So you can find us on there. So if you are a Hoops fan and you love basketball talk, especially the NBA, give us a follow and make us a part of your day. But
hey, the way I see it, bro, I'm gonna put it to him like this: if you're a Hoops fan, prove it. Back to you, bro.
Exactly. Prove it by locking in and lacing up with JWJ. Now,
yes, sir.
We just talked about some most improved. We'll get back into them here in a second. But with surprises and improvement comes regression and, what the hell's going on. So there's some teams here, maybe not as many, because the teams that we expected to be good, like really good, are about where we expect them to be. But right now, I mean, we got to talk about some of the disappointments. Golden State right now, 11th in the West, 9-10. 9 of their 10 losses are on the road right now. They're 1-9 on the road.
I was just about to say they've only won like one game on the road, right?
Yeah, and yeah, and I want to say that was recently. So yeah, and then
it was their I think it was their last game, their last road game to win. They lost 9 straight, if I remember right, and then they won their last one.
It's pretty rough right now. And then I mean, just looking at the other teams on this list, I mean, Miami, team that was number 1 in the East last year, 53 wins.
Mm-hmm.
They were number 1 in the East. They actually had as many wins as Golden State last season.
Mm-hmm.
And they're struggling too. They're 12th in the East right now. They're 8-11. They're 1-7 on the road. Not sure what's exactly going on there, but there's some issues going on in South Beach. And then we got Chicago, which a team that we knew they would have some issues out the gate. Not having Lonzo Ball is tough, but I mean, I thought they would have a lot more firepower to kind of offset a lot of things that they would struggle with starting out. And then
out of those 3 that you mentioned so far, we have Golden State, Miami, and then Chicago. Chicago is the one to me that actually makes a little bit of sense. Like you said, they've been dealing with having to deal with, being without Lonzo for an extended period of time. You shipped out a lot of your talent. And I think that, and this is no knock on him, you also have to look at, take it, hey, somebody get this to him. I don't mind if he hears it. I don't think that Billy Donovan is an NBA coach just yet. I think he still needs some more. Yeah, he still has some more grooming. He still has some work to do. So Chicago struggling to me is the least surprising out of those 3 teams that you mentioned. But I'm with you though. I think that a lot of people did expect more from them. And yeah, we're definitely not seeing it.
Yeah, and it's that's I don't know. I thought last year Chicago started out really hot, and I thought the Bulls were back, and then they kind of fell off. They had some injuries, that kind of thing. A couple more teams on that list, man. My Mavs, Dallas right now, we're 9-8, 10th in the West. They added Christian Wood, JaVale McGee in the offseason, lost Jalen Brunson to the New York Knicks. I thought we would start the season better, and we just haven't been very good starting out. And then another team on my list is the Los Angeles Lakers.
Whoa. Before we get to them purple and gold punks, Shane, I'm
Yeah.
did you did you just get on here and say something about being disappointed in your team?
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
God. My God. Hold on. Hold.
Business is about to pick up, folks.
Oh, it is. Oh my goodness. This is okay. All right. I love
Let me go ahead and put it out there, and then I'll give you the floor on this. I put the Lakers on this list because any team with LeBron James, Anthony Davis, like that should be a team that's pretty solid, right? I thought I like even though they didn't make the playoffs last year, I chalked a lot of it up to injuries and the
uh,
roster.
right,
This year,
right.
they are 5-11. They haven't won a road game yet, and they are 14th in the Western Conference. So it's not at this point. I mean, there are some injury concerns, but the more we look at it, it's the roster. So James,
When
go ahead. You got it.
no, I'm 100% with you. The roster is definitely something to take into consideration. But while we're talking about those two big names, one of those big names who a lot of people are going to argue is the biggest name has missed 6 of those 16 games already. And we can't argue the fact that he'll be 38 years old in a month. So yeah, he's finally getting to a point
He's
where
human after all.
yeah, he's finally getting to a point where it's the perfect time for the commercials. Yeah, Father Time might eventually win. And I'm with you from the standpoint of we have to look at the development of the roster. One of the biggest things for me, and I think it is definitely showing in the struggle of the season, is the fact that we let Malik Monk walk. That was a big problem. So Malik Monk is gone. You see where he is, and you see how that team is doing right now, but we'll get to that in a few minutes. So Malik Monk is out of the way. Austin Reeves is doing his thing, especially when he bumps into, pretty ladies on the sideline.
The baddies.
The baddies. So he's doing his thing. I mean, he's impressive. Surprising thing, and it trips me out every time I hear it. I got to throw this one out there. Also, as a Falcons fan, it bugs me every time I hear, recap from a Lakers game and I hear somebody bragging about a dude named Matt Ryan. It's tripping with me. I'm like, wait a minute. I thought he was, so we go from Atlanta to Indianapolis to Los Angeles.
I didn't know Matt Ryan could hoop.
That's what I'm saying, because Matt Ryan is easily what, like 6'4", 6'5"? We could probably use him. We could probably use him. So yeah, it's been a lot of questionable things with the Lakers roster. Like I said, LeBron is dealing with health issues. We have Anthony Davis, who probably deals with health issues more often than he brushes his teeth. Malik Monk is gone. Austin Reeves is trying to do what he can. We finally have what we think is a healthy Kendrick Nunn, which has turned out to be nothing. I think through the first 9-10 games of the season, this dude was responsible for less than 20 points.
Yeah, they were calling him Kendrick Nunn, None.
Literally. And it's it's understandable. I mean, it's very disappointing. One thing that I do like, and I think that anybody listening that really pays attention, they're going to agree with me, and they're also going to cheer this fact. Shout out to Russell Westbrook for accepting his role off the bench. I will say, I didn't think he would. I didn't think he'd be cool with that. But so far this season, he's already in the lead as far as Vegas and betting odds and everything are concerned for Sixth Man of the Year. Not only did he accept his role of coming off the bench, he has excelled in that role. So if he
looks happy again too,
yes,
he looks like he's playing with a lot more fire and joy. I feel like he was just early in the year when things really weren't going well to start out. It felt like he was, even Charles Barkley pointed it out. He's like, you just can't see, you don't see the joy that he usually plays with. And
Yeah.
I think just as a basketball fan, like I'm with Chuck, it was pissing me off too, because it just
Yeah.
felt like he was being like, yeah, he wasn't playing great, but it seemed like he was kind of being blamed solely for the Lakers being terrible. And it goes way farther than Russell Westbrook for sure.
Definitely. So the team overall is not looking good right now, but I think that one bright spot, one thing that absolutely cannot be done, y'all can't blame it on Russ no more.
Yep.
Because, like I said, not only has he accepted his role, but he is clearly thriving in that role. So it ain't Russ, it ain't LeBron. He's old. It ain't AD. He's been injury prone since he came into the league. We got to look at that front office.
Yeah, you got to look at who puts the pieces together
Yeah.
to field the team. Like,
Who's
and I think it's
trying to
been that way for a while. I mean, it goes back to when they won the championship. I mean, you gutted that roster. You gave away some guys that you should have kept. Dwight Howard had to go away and come back.
I'm so disappointed that
Like, yeah,
I'm so disappointed. Yeah, but like you said, we got to look at the front office and be like, who's the one trying to put the square peg in the round hole?
right,
It's not working. And to me, there's no understanding in my mind right now of how and this just isn't even, this isn't even just LA. This is just all around. How in the world do teams look at a guy like Dwight Howard right now and think that he's not capable of playing on an NBA team?
right.
Blows my mind. The fact that he's in Taiwan right now absolutely blows my mind. That dude, he could still start for teams in the NBA right now. And 30 teams thought that he wasn't even good enough to come off their bench.
Carmelo Anthony's not on the
Absolutely.
roster either.
And there were talks that he was going to Taiwan. Total disappointment. Blows my mind. I don't understand.
Yeah, you can't tell me that Carmelo couldn't help the Lakers right now. You can't tell me that Dwight Howard couldn't help the Lakers in some capacity right now, or any other 29 teams for that matter. Like those dudes should be still in the league. They can still go.
Maybe I'm biased because I've always been such a huge Melo fan. I'll go back. We've had this conversation a million times. In my opinion, 2003, 2004, Carmelo Anthony, in my opinion, was still the rookie of the year. Love you, Bron. That's still my opinion. I know that's very much up in the air for debate. Carmelo Anthony is my rookie of the year. I got a few Nuggets jerseys. I got a Syracuse jersey. I got an Oak Hill jersey, all with Anthony on the back hanging in my closet right now. One of my favorite players that I've ever got to see play the game. But I think that anybody that can sit here right now and say that that man does not deserve to be on a roster, you've been spending your whole time watching a different sport. Because there's to me, the thing that showed that he deserves to still be in the league was his comeback with Portland. He was out of the league for years. Everybody thought he was done. He swallowed his pride, came back in and was like, I'll come off the bench. I'll do whatever I have to do. And he was a big part of the reason for the resurgence in Portland. And next thing you know, he's on a title contender. He ends up in LA right after they win a ring in the hopes that if Melo had gotten a ring, bro, that would have done my heart so well.
Yeah.
And the fact that it didn't happen and now he can't find a spot on a roster, it hurts. It really sucks.
Yeah, I think like when I look at Carmelo Anthony, man, like I mean, this is a little bit of a tangent, but like he proved, like you said, in that stint with Portland, he proved that, and it was a situation where Portland was weak as far as their wing play, and he was able to go in there and give them some scoring punch like right away. And he eventually left there, ended up with the Lakers. He proved with the Lakers he could still make some shots. And there's plenty, and I mean it's an offensive league. Like
Right.
let's not kid ourselves. Like I could completely understand if I had to compare the two players right now. I could understand why Dwight Howard wouldn't be in, but I can't understand in an offensive league why a guy like Carmelo Anthony, who's a professional scorer, a guy that his MO is to put the ball in the hole, in an offensive league where you want to spread the floor and have guys shoot and score and that kind of thing, why a guy like him isn't on the roster. Now, there's plenty of teams I could look at right now, Dallas, that could use an
Cough,
offensive
cough.
wing,
Cough, cough.
cough, cough, Ebola cough, whatever, that could use a guy that could actually put the ball in the hole from the wing and do some things. But maybe later in the year, once we start seeing buyouts, maybe start some things, maybe he gets signed for a playoff run. I don't know. I still think he has some juice and some gas left in the tank. But with that being said, like just looking at these teams, just to talk about all the teams that are surprising, disappointing. We'll get to the players too, but matter of fact, let's get to the players. So, we got a few guys here that, in my opinion, are the most improved players in the league. One guy on this list is probably the front runner for MVP, but I'll explain my reasoning here in a little bit. So, James, first off, we got Lauri Markkanen for Utah. Currently this year, he's averaging a career high 22 points. He's averaging 8.5 rebounds and just over almost 2.5 assists a game. And he's shooting almost 53% from the floor. Putting up a great, putting out great performances for the Jazz right now. Another guy currently leading the league in assists. We go to Indiana. We got Tyrese Halliburton, who looks like he's breaking out right now. He's averaging career highs across the board. He's averaging almost 20 points a game, almost 11 assists, and 4.4 rebounds this year. Another guy, even though his team is bricking for Vic, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in OKC. He's averaging 31.1 points per game, 6.3 assists. He's also averaging almost 2 steals and 1.5 blocks, and he's shooting just under 52% from the floor this year. We mentioned the Cleveland Cavaliers. A guy that sticks out there is their newest acquisition, Donovan Mitchell. He's averaging a career high 30.1 points per game this year, also a career high 5.7 assists. He's also getting 1.6 steals a game. And a big thing for him, obviously with him being a smaller guard, he's having career highs in his field goal percentage. He's shooting 50.5%, shooting a career high 42.3% from three, and he's making over 87% of his free throws in almost 21 field goal attempts a game. And then we have a couple other guys. Anthony Simons for Portland. Personally, my pick for most improved player this year. He's going off. He's averaging 22.8 from points per game, 4.2 assists. He's making almost 4 threes a game, and he's a full-time starter this year, which we haven't been able to say for him. So he's averaging just under 36 minutes a night. And lastly, one guy that sticks out to me, I mentioned, it's a front runner for MVP. We're gonna go down to Dallas, and we got Luka Doncic. Now, Luka this year, everybody knows what he's doing. 34 points a game, that's a career high. 9 rebounds, 8 assists. He's also 4th in the league in steals at almost 2 a game. But the craziest thing about Luka, he's averaging a career high in points, but he's also averaging a career high in field goal percentage. Dude's shooting over 50% from the floor, just over 50. And he's the one guy in this whole list I have to look at his 2-point field goal percentage. 61% from inside the arc this year. So those are some guys I threw out. James, what are your thoughts on that list and just talk about some of those players?
All right. So I think it's already an impressive list. I mean, imagine if you put those guys all together on one roster.
That looked pretty good too.
It looked damn good. But I think if I go down that entire list of guys that you just mentioned, the one to me that's the most impressive right now is probably going to be Tyrese Halliburton. And the reason I say that is because if you look at Markkanen, you look at Luka, you look at Anthony Simons, all of those guys, they're shining right now because they were almost like they were either already expected to do it or they were thrust into that position for whatever reason. Like, what I mean when I say that, like, if we look at Anthony Simons, he was destined to do what he did eventually because CJ McCollum is gone now.
Right.
Luka was, in my opinion, destined to do what he's doing because Jalen Brunson is gone. So the ball is going to be in his hands more. He's already the dominant ball handler on the team. So it doesn't surprise me that they're doing what they do. And then in the marketing situation, that one's a little bit opposite. I say that one doesn't surprise me. In a way, it does, because it's one of those things where you look at marketing and you're like, hey, bruh, you realize y'all are supposed to suck, right? Like, that to me is why he's kind of a surprise right now, because it's like, dude, y'all are supposed to be bad. That's what Danny Ainge wanted.
Right.
Don't come out here and do this. Like, what's your problem? But to me, overall, I think Tyrese Halliburton is the most impressive out of all of them, because I think that Indiana, out of every one of those teams that's involved, you have Utah, you have Indiana, you have Dallas, you have Portland. I think Indiana's the one team that's kind of like that fringe team where it's like, are we supposed to be good? Are we supposed to be bad? Which way are we going? And you don't know. Like, do you want players to, commit to that T word that I refuse to say? Do you want your guys to commit to doing less than what's expected of them? And if you look at Indiana, they're that one team where people still kind of think they might be able to do something in their conference. And even with, this is where I can throw my squad into it. There's been those talks for about the last year of the Lakers trying to snatch up, Buddy Hield and Miles Turner. Even with those talks going on, Indiana keeps chugging along. They're doing what they have to do. And Tyrese Halliburton has been the main cog in that system. He's come out. Look, the funniest thing, I know you saw it, but I got to bring it up for the sake of the podcast. That's the JWJ podcast. If y'all aren't familiar, make sure you tune in. We're on Spotify, we're on Apple Podcasts, we're on iHeartRadio, you name it, we're everywhere. Just go look for us, Google us. We got it. There's been the whole thing going on talking about like Tyrese Halliburton, where they interviewed him not too long ago, and they were talking about what's the difference between you being here and playing in Sacramento, and he just came out so blunt with it, and he was like, I'm better here.
Yeah,
I have opportunity here.
They had their choice.
Yeah,
they had their choice.
Yeah, and it's no knock on him. It's no knock on Sacramento. Like, Sacramento did what they had to do. I'll sit here now and point out how annoyed I am that Sacramento decided to unveil the whole, like, releasing the purple beam after every home win. And I mentioned to my boy, I mentioned to my dude Shane how stupid I thought that was. And then the first time they got to do it was because they beat the Lakers at home. Whatever.
Yeah, they had to rub it in real quick.
Right. Whatever. So yeah, I mean, but shout out to Sacramento. Like I said, they're doing their thing too. But I definitely think that the way the rosters were headed and the way that the teams were headed, Tyrese Halliburton ending up in Indiana, that was a big move for his career. So I only see bright things for him. Like I said, that's why out of all of those guys that you mentioned, to me, he's probably been the most impressive one out of all of them so far.
Yeah, he's been phenomenal. I mean, we knew when he was in Sacramento he was going to be a good player. I mean, it didn't work with him and De'Aaron Fox there. I think they had to pick, do we want our point guard to be more of a dynamic scorer, or do we want like more of a taller point guard that kind of sets it up. And Indiana they had more of a need for a point guard. It was right for them to acquire a guy like that because it really works out now because they don't have Malcolm Brogdon anymore.
Crazy thing I just thought about. If you think about the most successful span that Sacramento had, it just so happened to be with a point guard that was only like 6'1".
Yeah.
Shout out to White Chocolate.
And then Mike Bibby after that.
And Mike Bibby after that. Their biggest successes came with point guards that were smaller guys. So I mean, keeping De'Aaron Fox makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And I mean it, like when I think of it, man, I look at, it's funny because we won't use the T word on today's podcast. So that gives me another campaign slogan. So we already got Brick for Vic. We got Trade Your Mama for Wembanyama. So since we won't mention the T word, I'm gonna say War Machine for Wemby. Operation War Machine in full effect.
I love it. I love it.
So like when I look at, man, it's funny because, like I said, I mean, Indiana, I think, is in the same position as Utah. I think everybody expected them to, even though they held on to Buddy Hield and they held on to Miles Turner, I think a lot of people expected them to fire sale it and rebuild because last year was such a bad year for them.
You think
I do.
So?
I think they were kind of in a spot where, like, last year they were bad. They had the whole Malcolm Brogdon thing. He left there. Miles Turner's been disgruntled there. He's been kind of open about wanting out of Indiana for a while. But they kept him, and now it's like, okay, well, we got these guys. They traded Sabonis. That was the main thing for me when they traded Domantas Sabonis to Sacramento as part of the Halliburton deal.
And you got to throw in, don't forget Malcolm Brogdon.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. It's like when you throw all that in, and you're thinking, okay, well, why would they trade Domantas Sabonis if they're trying to be good? So it's like now they're in a position where Halliburton out here averaging 20 and 11 basically.
I think I think the big thing to think about in those two situations is when we look at Utah and we look at Indiana. Mm-hmm. Even though some big names got traded away, it's like, look at what's left. Like in Utah's case, we still have, Jordan Clarkson. We have Mike Conley, who's dealing with injury right now. And then on the flip side in Indiana, like you said, we still got Buddy Hield, still got Miles Turner. Like,
there's more to work with.
And then you look at, and I know we haven't talked about it. We might, save it for another episode. My goodness, Benedict Mathurin.
Yep.
Dude, like they struck gold with that young man. Like Benedict Mathurin is a problem already. Like he's probably
a dark horse for rookie of the year. I mean, Paolo's got it kind of have it on lock right now, but
and the scary thing about thinking about Paolo having it on lock is Paolo's been sitting out the last few games.
Yep.
I don't even think right now it's necessarily on lock. I think that Paolo better get his behind back out there on the court, or we might be having that discussion of Benedict sneaking in, because to me, the other players that are in that, that chase, that front running chase, we talk about Keegan Murray, we talk about Jaden Ivey, we talk about, you notice that nobody has had anything to say about Jabari Smith. That to me, when it comes to the rookies, has been a disappointment.
Yeah, he hasn't played that well, and Houston's been bad, like as expected.
Right,
they're one of the teams on the War Machine.
Right,
but like,
I love that.
Like Houston was one team. Like I knew they'd be bad, but I thought we'd see more of those flashes of like, okay, like Houston has like the youth and the athleticism to like be interesting,
right?
But they just don't have any like vets or experience there other than like Eric Gordon that you can look at and be like, like they just don't have enough experience for them to be good right now. And Jabari
Yeah.
Smith has been a little bit disappointing. He hasn't played very well to
He's
start
a,
out
I feel
his
like he's a
career.
casualty of the situation. I do think he could be better if he was somewhere else, which
There's a lot of
in
selfishness.
yeah, no, I agree. But I mean, I do feel like if we were to flip the situation and everything went the way that, you know, I can't remember what you said, but if we went the way that I predicted over the summer, when I said that I believed Jabari would go number one,
Mm-hmm.
that was on our draft preview episode on the JWJ podcast. Y'all make sure y'all follow us Instagram, Spotify, Facebook. We have it all. Y'all make
Yeah,
sure
go
y'all
ahead and
do
give
that.
us a like on Facebook, man. That's probably
Absolutely.
been one of our best platforms as far
That's been
as fan support.
yeah.
We make sure every episode we put out, man, y'all need to go ahead and follow us on there. Like I said, if you're
Yeah.
a Hoops fan,
Yeah.
like you should
Hey,
already be following us. And if you're listening to us now and you don't follow us, like what are you doing?
like I said, coming off what you said, man. If you're a hoops fan, prove it. But yeah, like my thing with Jabari Smith, I wonder if his numbers, if his situation would be different if he had ended up in Orlando instead of Houston. He probably would be getting the ball more. He'd be getting. Could you imagine putting Jabari out there right now alongside Bo?
Yeah. And see, and
That'd
and,
be
and like you
fun.
just mentioned like putting them out there together, right?
Yeah.
I think that's the problem. I think you'd have some
Hmm.
overlap there as far as like what they do. You'd have because they had obviously they have a bunch of trees in Orlando. Like
Right.
that's
The
probably
team
the
is
tallest
huge.
team in the
The
league,
team,
top to
no,
bottom.
easily. Yeah, the team is huge.
I think if you put Jabari Smith on that team, I think you'd have some overlap between him and Bol as guys that are like taller forwards. Obviously, Bol is freaking huge,
Right.
but just guys that shoot perimeter. I mean, you got a lot of guys. Like if you put Paolo on Houston, like his ability to make plays and all that, I feel like he would be affected by the guard play there and guys just
Yeah.
looking to get
No,
theirs.
that's what I was gonna say. Like
Yeah.
Paolo would immediately be impacted in Houston because he would have to deal with Jalen Green,
And Kevin
um,
Porter.
and Kevin Porter. Like he's gonna be dealing with guys there that need the ball in their hand to be
It's always
effective.
tough for bigs too.
Whereas, yeah, like you look at Orlando and like you said with I think they measured him a few minutes ago actually, and I think his wingspan came up to be something like, oh my god. It was, I think that's what the measuring stick said. It said, oh my god.
Is his wingspan
Um
as long as the War Machine?
it might be a little bit bigger actually.
Yeah, because
Um
they'll be in that conversation too.
oh, definitely, definitely. But I don't know, man. It's a lot going on there, but I feel like I do feel like we would see a different Jabari Smith if he was somewhere other than Houston. I think that Houston is one of those teams that definitely has the war machine on their mind.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's easier for them, and that's why Jabari's not getting the exposure that he should. That's just my opinion. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think it's always tough. Like if you're a bigger guy, I mean, he's 6'10". I think it's tough when you're a bigger guy and you play with guards because the guards have to kind of get you the ball. The ball doesn't necessarily run right through you right away. I think right now,
And
if
then
you had to pick,
you're also dealing with a guard that's a natural scorer
yeah,
in
and
Jalen
those
Green.
guys like right now they're not guys that are looking to make plays for others. They're trying to get theirs for themselves. Right now, just looking at his numbers, when I say he has not played well, he has not played well. Let's just look at it this way. All right, so he's averaging 10.9 points and just under 7 rebounds a game right now. But
Percentages are awful
the percentages
though.
are terrible. When I say this dude can't hit water if he fell out of boat right now,
Terrible.
he would be like if the War Machine floats, then yeah, he would have trouble being on the War Machine right now, shooting 33. He's shooting 11 times a game. He's shooting 33%. He's taking 6 threes a game. He's making 30%.
Oh,
He of those 10.9 attempts a game, right? He's shooting 5 2-pointers a game. He's shooting 37% from two. The only saving grace, and this isn't even great, he's shooting 83% from the line, but he's 6'10". He only takes 2.3 free throws a game right now. So it's been a rough go for Jabari Smith Jr. right now. But I just think like when you're playing on a team like that that's bad, it's hard to kind of stick out on a team that's bad. It's like, when you're losing and you got a bunch of guys that are clearly like not winning players right now, like they're trying to get theirs, it's going to be hard to stick out on a team like that.
like I said, yeah, it's hard. It's hard to stick out on a team that's bad, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna go back to it. It's also hard to stick out on a team that's bad when you have players on the team that fit the persona of the team more than you do. Right. That's still what blew my mind with them taking Jabari.
Yeah. And I mean,
you
like
have...
if you think about it, yeah, like what you were saying, like to me, the pick of him made sense just because, like, yeah, you have those two guards there, right? And then they also have a promising big in Alperen Şengün.
Yeah, my thing was though, why take him if you don't plan to utilize him? Like, it to me, that's the one thing. And I mean, I guess it makes sense if you look at Houston as the war machine. I mean, that makes sense that way, but at the same time, I'm scratching my head like, why take this guy if you plan on like full on war machining him and you can't move him? So
I think like, just like I said, just in terms of balance on the floor, if you got a Jalen Green, you got a Kevin Porter, you got Alperen Şengün there, I think by having a perimeter oriented big next to Şengün and then having those guards, I definitely see where it could potentially turn into something, but it's gonna be a while before they're good. They might be fun in some cases. I don't care for them, but they might be good in a few years. Especially they might be good immediately if the War Machine stops in Houston. But we'll see. But like, when going from one big to another, I mean, Lauri Markkanen, like, he's always been like an intriguing prospect. Like, for me as a basketball fan, I love bigs that can shoot. I always have a sweet spot for shooters. This guy was particularly interesting because I always liked him even when he was at Arizona. He got the Dirk Nowitzki comparisons, coming out of Arizona. And there's some parallel there. Maybe not in how they play necessarily. I mean, they're both 7-footers that shoot. But one thing that I think is interesting to point out is Markkanen right now, like I mentioned earlier, he's averaging 22 points, 8.5 boards right now, shooting over 50, almost 53% from the floor, right? Mm-hmm. Last year, he was just under 15 points, just under 6 rebounds, but he was shooting 44.5% from the floor. So he was shooting like he was putting up guard like numbers, if you're talking like, an off guard on a team that's kind of stacked, but he's 7 feet tall. Mm-hmm. So the thing I think that's interesting in Utah right now is Lauri Markkanen is their starting small forward.
Right.
And the reason I brought up the Dirk comparisons is because a lot of people don't know this, but for a good stretch of Dirk's early career, he was playing the 3 in Dallas.
Yeah.
He was on the wing primarily. He didn't settle into the power forward spot probably until about, I'd say maybe 2002, 2003, when he was already, 5 years in.
Right.
Markkanen is about the same. He's about 5. I think he's 5 years in, right? Something like that.
He's about that. Yeah, I can double check.
And he's putting up those numbers because he's actually getting a chance to play away from the basket like he's wanted to. I think he's been in situations in Chicago and Cleveland where he's kind of bounced around positions. Is he a power forward? Can you play him as a small ball five? Like what exactly is Lauri Markkanen in the league? And now you're seeing whatever it is, it's clicking. I think playing in Cleveland actually helped him as far as his role in Utah because they played a lot of huge lineups there.
Yeah, I just double checked it. This is his fifth career, his
Yeah,
fifth
so it's his
season.
fifth year, and
Yeah.
I think it's important for him to settle into whatever position he's going to play, and be able to produce in that. I mean, he's taking 15 shots a game, and he's making a good percentage of them. He's
Oh
in a
no, I'm sorry.
position where he's got the ball.
I missed it a little bit. This is actually season 6
So this
for
is
him.
season 6. Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
he spent 4 in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
He played 61 games in Cleveland last year.
Right.
And yeah, this will be season 6 for him.
And it's impressive because I think for him, he kind of had that rap as the guy that he had a sweet touch, but he just wasn't consistent. Him averaging 20 points, 22 points a game now, that's a sign that it's starting to click for him and that he's getting that consistency to go with the rest of his game because he's always been a great shooter, but to see his rebounding improve, you're talking nearly almost 3 boards a game more this year than last.
Yo,
Like
and
that,
then
that's impressive for him. It's cool to see him finally producing at a high level.
and I gotta say, shout out on the collegiate level. You got him, you got DeAndre Ayton, you got Benedict Mathurin. Shout out to Arizona, man. shout out to Arizona. That's
Like
three that's
Arizona,
three
Arizona's
quality
been
players,
been
man.
very good as far as
Yeah.
their recent guys they've put in the league.
Yeah. Shout out to Arizona. I don't know why, for some reason I never put it together that Markkanen went to Arizona. That's on me. I didn't realize that.
Yeah,
Oh man.
yeah. So
And started every game while he was there, the 16-17 season. I didn't realize that.
right, right, and we got to talk about the other part of that trade. The main piece was Donovan Mitchell leaving Utah for Cleveland. Like just his numbers. I mean, he's always been good, but he's starting to like produce. I think he's in a position now where he can kind of focus on being like a scorer and being dynamic, even for his size. He's only 6'1", but he plays bigger than that.
Oh
Um,
yeah. Oh
and
yeah.
he right now, I mean, I told you he's shooting over 50% from the floor, which as a small guard is huge.
Mhm.
But he's right now, I mean, he's flirting with 50, 40, 90. I mean, right now he's at 50 and a half,
So is all
42.3 from three.
so is Austin Reeves. Shout out to the
And
Lakers.
so is Austin Reeves. Now, I don't know if the baddies have anything to do with that. I don't know if Cleveland has the same amount of baddies.
If they do, they'd better get courtside tickets until Austin leaves LA.
Yeah. But, at this point, Austin Reeves might be commandeering the war machine, even though that might go to another team.
Can I go on the record and say, just for what it's worth, before we get back into Utah and all the moves, I'll be the one to say it if nobody else will say it. I think Hillbilly Kobe is one of the most god awful nicknames for any human being walking this planet. Like, do you know how easy it would be? Austin Reeves has been shooting the lights out, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's been absolutely cold. Let's call him Stone Cold Austin Reeves. Do something, anything else. Hillbilly Kobe. I hate that name with a passion. It's awful.
It sounds like such a dig.
It's awful,
Like
right?
it sounds like he's trash.
Right. It makes you sound like, oh, you'd be good if you were black and bald. Like I hate it. I'm not a fan of that name at all. Hillbilly
But then
Kobe. It
again, I mean,
sounds
you
so
can't
awful.
given the current climate in our country, you can't call him AR-15. I'm sorry.
No, and I agree. Don't
It's a
go
shame.
there. But
But
like I said, me and you, we're both look, I feel like we've always found a way to make wrestling references on our podcast so far. So again, if you're a wrestling fan and you're listening to this, make sure you go ahead and follow us on Instagram. Go ahead and like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter. Make sure you handle the business. We have a Linktree account that's posted on both of our personal
You
accounts
can
as
find
well as
everything that we're on.
yes, everything. But back to my point, your name is Austin. You are a dead eye, stone cold shooter so far. Stone cold Austin Reeves. That's perfect. Let the team go ahead and start marketing some
Yeah, call him
black and
Austin
white shirts.
315.
There you go. Like start marketing some shirts. You could
Right.
even I'm fully convinced that Steve Austin would at some point show up in LA. Like mess around and let Austin Reeves be on a championship team. You know how there was the whole thing back in the day.
Kevin Love had the shirt.
No, I was gonna go back past that. I was gonna say back in 2004 when our head coach was part of the team that they won a title that year against the team's not important, but that fall Rasheed Wallace had belts for everybody.
Right.
Could you imagine how dope it would be if the Lakers were to win the title and next thing you know, Austin Reeves shows up with one of the Smoke and Skull belts? Like how dope, how awesome would that be? And if y'all aren't familiar with the Smoke and Skull belt, oh, just stay tuned because once we get our cameras up and ready, I got one sitting on the shelf over here. I'll show you exactly what we're talking about because when I say we're big wrestling fans, I mean that. But that would be that would be huge. Stone Cold Austin Reeves, Hillbilly Kobe, whack,
Yeah, I don't like it.
whack.
It sounds
I'm
like
not
such
a
a dick
fan.
move.
I'm not a fan. It like you said, it takes such a shot at him that I feel like is unnecessary. I'm not a fan. I don't like it.
Right. But you know, just getting back to where we were, like Donovan Mitchell, I think him playing with Darius Garland, the guy that was a first time All-Star last year, like I think it's allowing him to kind of be more of that secondary playmaker while also still being able to do what he does. Because I mean, last year he averaged about 26 a game, 5 assists. But this year, you're talking he's averaging 30 and almost 6 assists, a career high. And he's averaging over 1.5 steals a game. Like his ability, he's shooting more, but his percentage has gone up. He's up there now. He's shooting just on almost 21 shots a game, and his efficiency has gone up. 50.5 from the field as a 6'1" guard is insane. Um, I think he's a guy. I think he needed more around him in terms of the guard play. I think playing with Mike Conley didn't really do it. Darius Garland obviously is a little bit different player than Mike Conley, and he's not as washed. But anyway, um, like that takes I like Donovan Mitchell. I love his attitude. I think he's in a good spot in Cleveland where he can do what he does best, and he doesn't have to overextend himself to be the point guard there. Him being that off guard that can his job is just put the ball in the hole, and both of those guys can score. I think that's big for Cleveland and what they want to do.
I think it's funny too that on the flip side, you remember there was that whole big deal that everybody was making about while they were in Utah that Donovan Mitchell wasn't passing Rudy Gobert the ball. There was that whole talk about that. Have you seen the numbers from early in the season about what Anthony Edwards has been doing
And he
with
hasn't
with Rudy Gobert? Ain't nobody passing Rudy Gobert the ball.
Carl Anthony Towns passes the ball to Gobert more than Anthony Edwards.
Yes. To me, idiotic. That's such a dumb comparison. Like
and it's a big reason why Minnesota's not as good as they hope to be is because
right.
you gotta guys like Rudy, like you have to include them. Like he's too big of a guy as far as like you got to throw the big dude some bones. Like he's not out there to score a ton of points.
Man, your name is Rudy.
Like a pick and roll combo with a guy like Anthony Edwards, if he learns how to be more of a playmaker, like that could be really good.
Your name's
But
Rudy.
it's gonna take some work there.
Your name's Rudy.
Yeah.
Sorry, I got sidetracked. Yeah, man. I think it's so funny when we're in a situation where everybody was trying to make it seem like Donovan Mitchell was such a big part of the problem. And now it's obvious that Donovan Mitchell just was not in the right situation. And now that he's in Cleveland, he has been absolutely thriving. The team is doing well. He's doing well. I just it's been refreshing to watch him play. You can see that even his mindset, his mood has changed since he's been there. So I mean, it's at the end of the day, yeah, I'm a jab on my own team. Utah and Cleveland have obviously done some things that Palinka and company failed to capitalize on.
Yeah. I mean, shit. I mean, that's how it is. I mean, you look at like where it is as far as Cleveland right now. Like, yeah, like both guys, like they probably have one of the smallest starting backcourts in the whole league with Garland and Mitchell. Both guys 6'1".
Yeah.
One guy's a little bit thicker as far as Mitchell being a bigger guy at 215 pounds.
Ain't nobody Kyle Lowry though.
Yeah, exactly. That ass though. But anyway,
donkey.
Yeah, hell, if Miami don't get it together, they might have might have a room on that war machine too. They don't get it.
I don't think they'll get that bad.
Yeah, we'll see. Twerking for Wemby, but anyway. But anyway, like I said, Cleveland. I expected. I mean, they were pretty good last year. For that team, but they're for real this year. I think they'll make some teams sweat once they get to the playoffs for sure. Another guy we talked about, Anthony Simons. Like, he's a full-time starter this year, shooting well. SGA has been good for a while, but I think this is the year where he's finally stepped up and shown like, okay, like people are saying, should have trade this guy? Like, what?
Because he has nothing to lose. He has nothing to lose right now.
Right.
Like, nobody's expecting anything out of Oklahoma City. And I mean, he's been nice. Like, I feel like we even saw glimpses of this. Like, a lot of people probably don't even realize at one point SGA was a Clipper.
Exactly.
I think a lot of people don't even realize that.
That was so long ago.
Right. I think a lot of people don't even realize that he was a Clipper, and he was nice then. And now he's here. He's able to show himself a little bit more because he's in a position where the team is fully riding the war machine and they're not expecting him to be great. So
they
it's
have
like
the most missiles on the war machine.
Exactly. So it's like, if you go out here, and I'm loving this comparison, by the way. It's like, if you go out here and you absolutely stink up the floor, it's cool. We're trying to get you some help next year. You know what? It sucks. Hey, Chet, shout out to you. I hope you get healthy soon. We want to see you on the court. For what it's worth, on my roster, on my team, on NBA 2K23, you are on my bench. And you do a hell of a job on there. I want to see you do that job in real life because I think you are a hell of a player. So, they've made moves with the expectation that certain things would happen. They've had unfortunate things happen. Just like a few episodes ago, we talked about the Liz Frank injury with Chet Holmgren. He's out for his entire, what was supposed to be his rookie year. Dare we go as far as to say he'll be rookie of the year next year? I won't go that far yet because we'll get into that later.
If he even if it might be one of those Joel Embiid situations, they might just be like, look,
it might be a couple of years out.
Yeah, he might be a couple of years out. Who knows?
Yeah, possibly.
It'll be his 5th year on the team, and
look, he'll be
rookie of the year.
He'll be that Ben Simmons joke.
Yeah,
where everybody be like, "Oh, he's gonna win rookie of the year." They'll be like, "You realize this is 5th year, right?" Yeah, shut up. No,
Yeah,
but no,
yeah.
I with back to SGA. I mean, he's in a position now where, like I said, it's like if he's bad, it's like okay, we're building. Presti comes to him and it's like it's cool, like we're working on something. If he comes out and he's good, it's still cool because him being good, who else on the team is going to do it outside of Josh Giddey? Like there's
It's a like I mean, if you look at OKC, man, like they may not be very good in terms of the wins and losses,
mhm.
but that's a team that nobody likes playing against because
Yeah,
they for one, SGA is insane. He's probably one of the best players off the dribble as far as going to the rim. He
agreed.
probably leads the league in drives.
Agreed.
He's
Yeah.
super efficient as far as getting to his spots off the dribble and finishing in the paint at the rim. Um, he's up there. I mean, another guy on that list is Luka, who's amazing going to the basket. SGA is top shelf as far as guys that drive to the hole to produce. I mean, he's averaging 31 a game. He's making plays for others. He's an excellent defender. I mean, he almost 2 steals, 1.5 blocks. Like he factors in there too. Um, when you like, there's a lot to like about OKC. I like Josh Giddey. I didn't think I would like Josh Giddey, but that's another point for a different day. But like,
Giddy's on the bench on my 2K roster too, by the way.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, it SGA is a bright spot on that team. They got other guys that can play. I mean, they got Lou Dort, who's one of the more underrated players in the league as a defender. So they got a
Ah,
lot of guys there.
Logan. Sorry,
There you
this is
go.
that Street Fighter joke. Not real ones know.
Yeah. So and lastly, like I want to justify my pick. If Ja Morant could win Most Improved after the season he had prior to that, then a dark horse for Most Improved this year could be Luka Doncic. And my whole deal is with this is like, yeah, it's like the rich getting richer as far as his game. To
Mhm.
me, he averaged 28 a game last year, and he's found a way to be 6 points better this year. I think for me, watching Luka, given his style of play, he takes a lot of tough shots. That's one reason that he's only shot, in the 30s from three for his career.
Mhm.
But I thought, okay, like we get to see like where he's at as far as how this game starts with him with Dallas when the season starts. Because he's last couple years season starting out, he's been notoriously out of shape.
Mhm.
It was well publicized last year. He came into camp at 260, which is like 30 pounds over his listed playing weight.
Mhm.
So I think with him, the experience of getting the Mavs to the Western Conference Finals, playing for Slovenia in the Eurobasket tournament, World Cup qualifying, all that stuff.
Mhm.
Like I think that experience of him running out of gas or being taken advantage of at times in the playoffs in that Golden State series, that's kind of his okay, like that's his turning point moment. I think the year he's having right now is a byproduct of coming into the season in better shape. He's already a ball dominant guard, but he's having to shoulder even more of the load because most of the guys on that team are playing terrible right now.
Mhm.
Dorian Finney-Smith's numbers are down. He was averaging 11 a game last year as a 3-and-D guy. Reggie Bullock, who was an unsung hero for their playoff run, uh, you know, the changes they've had as far as losing Jalen Brunson, that replacing him hasn't been as seamless. Spencer Dinwiddie has stepped up admirably. I think he's averaging like 17 and 5 assists, and he's one of the top guys in 3-point percentage right now. So shout out to Spence. But like
Here, my
with
my
Luca,
thing.
what
Oh,
I'm
I'm
sorry.
sorry. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, like with Luca, like as a guy that takes a lot of tough shots, I think the genius in his game has been his efficiency. And it's not always been something that's talked about in his game because he takes a lot of tough shots. I think him shooting over 50% from the floor is a byproduct of, it lets you know that there's not many people that can actually guard him one-on-one. I think just seeing the Mavs a few times this year, I think teams are more willing to try to handle him one-on-one because they see how much the supporting cast is struggling. And it's funny because, like, even though he's seeing a lot more, like, he's seeing a lot of different defenses, but he's also seeing a lot of single coverage. He can score on anybody in the league. There's nobody that can stop him. You know, you can only hope to contain him. The fact that he's averaging 34 a game and the team's only 9-8 right now just speaks to the level of the guys around him. I think the reason Dallas made the run they made was they traded Kristaps Porzingis. They got Spencer Dinwiddie back, a guy that complements Luka's game pretty well, to go along with Jalen Brunson. And it became, you started to see more of a defensive style. Like, guys covered for each other better, and the offense was still the offense, but Luka being able to hit threes and set the table for everybody else, and then the whole team kind of defensively locking in. They were probably the best team, other than the Celtics maybe, after the All-Star break going into the playoffs. Dallas made a complete, like, 180 as far as where they were. I think they were under 500 at the All-Star break, and then they made that turn. The problem is now, with Luka's team, is that those guys now aren't playing the way they played down the stretch last year. So, like, Finney Smith's not going off the way he was, even though he's been a guy that has improved every year he's been in the league, literally. Bullock's not hitting. He started last season rough. Luka started last season rough. I think a lot of it is just wait and see. Christian Wood has been good, but, you know, dealing with Jason Kidd and how he's handling rotations, it's like you don't even know, like, if he's going to get to play as much as he should, even though he's been one of the most productive players on the team. So I think there's a lot that we still don't know about this team, but what we do know is that 77 is one of the best players in the world. He should be MVP this year, but his efficiency, given his workload, has been impressive. The question now is if he can keep it up.
The big thing that I have to point out, and I'm sure you can agree with me here as much as it hurts your heart, the reason that he will not win Most Improved, when have you ever seen a player win Most Improved when the previous year they were already in MVP talks? Never happened.
Yeah. And I think he's been like the favorite the last few years, and then it's like, so he's like the preseason favorite, and then, like, he starts the season fat, and then it's out of hand.
Yeah. So, like, we even even John Morant came up in the conversation about winning Most Improved, right?
Right.
The year before he won Most Improved, was he in the MVP talks? Nope. No. Because nobody was checking for Memphis. Luka was already there. That's why I think Luka will never win Most Improved. It's not even a knock on him. It's the fact that he was already good enough to the point to where Most Improved doesn't even apply to him.
Yeah.
Like, you get better and your team is going to get even better. You're already in talks for Most Valuable. So nobody's going to look at you for Most Improved.
Yeah. I think, like, and we talked about this before we came on air, is like the thing we've talked about this, you know, on the phone a few times, like in our conversations about Dallas or Luka or whatever, is he's already so good now. And then you think, okay, how much better can he get? And you can look at his numbers and you're like, okay, he's putting up 34 a game, but he's only shooting 29% from three. You've seen the stroke. We know, like, and a lot of that is shot selection. A lot of it is just him settling. But if he was shooting 35% from three right now, think about it. If he's shooting 35% like he did last year, instead of 29, we're literally talking about this dude probably averaging 41, 42 a game if he's shooting 35 from three right now.
But the big question is, what does it do for the team?
And that's the thing. He does everything for the team. And I think that's the problem.
I agree. I agree that he does all of this for the team. My question is, when I say what does it do for the team, how many games do they win?
Yeah. And see, they won
because you
52
run
last
it
year.
because you run into a possible problem where, like I said, you can even go back and find a team that hits you with that Detroit approach. Oh, Luka's crushing us right now. You know what we're gonna do? We're gonna let him do everything he wants, and we're gonna swarm everybody else.
Right.
So how does his improvement in his numbers turn into more production for the team?
Yeah. And I feel like he's in a position right now already through 17 games. I feel like his MVP case is going to be kind of like Nikola Jokic's was last year, especially last year, where
A
like,
big part early on. And we had this conversation off the phone too, where we talked about the whole idea of load management.
mm-hmm.
Luka went off a few days ago and then immediately had to sit for rest. He's in better shape now, but is he in 82 game NBA season shape?
Yeah. I think it's a combination when I look at him and what he has to do for Dallas on a nightly basis. He leads the league in usage rate as well.
Which is part of the problem.
I think when you have to carry, he's also averaging a career high 37 minutes. Last night against Boston, he played like the entire second half.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you ask that much of a guy and he's so productive in so many ways,
Mm-hmm.
it's like if anybody's gonna get load managed, it should be that guy. Because if you watch that game last night, and I just saw the highlights, like it's Luka and like Christian Wood was pretty good, but it's mostly Luka and a bunch of guys that aren't getting it done. I mean, Tim Hardaway was awful last night. There was one play where Luka throws him an outlet pass up the court that should have been a layup, and he turns it over, loses it out of bounds.
And like I said, if I'm an opposing coach playing Dallas, that's what I would do. I'd be like, hey guys, our strategy, let Luka do whatever he wants. What everybody else is gonna do, lock everybody else down. I don't care if Luka goes for 80. I don't care if Luka goes Kobe, drops the 81. If we can stop everybody else from scoring, we'll win.
Yeah.
And that's the downside to that situation in Dallas, right, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think the thing that, you know, in them going to the conference finals, you saw where they got, I think everybody that was contributing as far as scoring, shooting, whatever, I think they were all playing. I want to say they were probably the best version of themselves. Like the role players were playing above their head like the whole time, right? Like I play a lot of tennis now. And if you're making a lot of shots that you don't always make, or you're just playing ridiculously, say you're playing up a tree, like I think most of the guys on the team were playing up a tree. Like Finney Smith was the best version of himself. Bullock was the ideal 3-and-D guy. Like Luka was Luka. Dinwiddie brought it on. Brunson was great. Maxi Kleber couldn't buy a bucket until the playoffs, and then he starts shooting 55 from three. So it's like they kind of caught lightning in a bottle with the role players they have. The problem is you let a guy like Jalen Brunson, who was averaging 17 a game or whatever, let him go. He was like your best player when the playoffs started because Luka was out with the calf injury. So you lost that guy, and you're thinking, okay, and I was guilty of this as well. You thought, okay, by adding Christian Wood, more minutes for Dinwiddie, Hardaway coming back, you replace that production. And yeah, you might, but you don't replace the ability to break down defenses and run the show consistently and consistently produce and be that guy that can play off Luka, can take some of the heat off Luka, and be able to carry some of the scoring load. Like he could be your leading scorer some nights. Like Spencer Dinwiddie can be that guy, but he doesn't do it in the same way as Jalen Brunson. And so like it's coming out that him being that third ball handler or that secondary ball handler, and then Dinwiddie being the third guy, that's what you needed. is more guys that can do their own thing when they load up on Luka. And this year, nobody is playing at that level yet. Like Dinwiddie's playing pretty well, but he's starting now. But like you're not getting as much from those role players right now. And that's really, I think, putting a cap on how good the Mavericks can be. Now, if they make a move and say they get a guy that's capable of, like, say, I'm just throw it out there, not saying we can get him, but say they were able to acquire like a Bradley Beal, or they were able to acquire like, you know, I don't know, like say they had another guy like that could create their own shot and score. Like say they had SGA, right? For one, if you put him and Luka on the same team, good lord. But like that's what you need. And I think Dallas is a piece away. I like Christian Wood. I think he should be starting. I think he's earned that. I think when he came in, them saying he's going to come off the bench, I think they kind of sunned him a little bit because he had been playing on bad teams. But I think he plays well with Luka. They just need more around Luka to take that pressure off. Like knowing he can average 34 is cool, but he shouldn't be the be all end all for your team. And I think they've kind of dropped the ball as far as building around him and taking that pressure off. Like you don't want it to be a situation like when they had Dirk for all those years, right? Where he was carrying subpar teams with his own individual greatness. He was willing those teams to wins because he was a matchup nightmare. Like Luka, given how much more versatile he is and how much impact he has on a game, you got to get more around that dude so he doesn't have to do everything. And so
No,
like
I feel you. I think I think like I said, and I mean it's to me at the end of the day, it's the same thing that I've been saying with Dallas's roster. It's I think the roster is ready. I think the roster is there, but there's so much put on Luka to where it's it's at a point where it's almost like you don't know what else to expect.
right.
Because of course we know what Luka's capable of. But it's hard when it's questionable what's being put around him. Like we did deal with the injuries with Spencer Dinwiddie. You know, we bring in Christian Wood, who I mean, everything that Dallas has done has been done the right way. But the problem now is that if you look at the way the team has been put together, it's all being put together with Luka's going to do this and everybody else is going to follow suit.
Right.
And that's the biggest problem with the roster.
Right.
You can't look at any team in the league and expect it to be handled that way. Like you can't look at a team where it's like if our superstar does this, everybody else is going to do this, because that's never worked anywhere. And that to me is the biggest issue in Dallas. Is like I said, you can't put all the expectations on one guy and expect anything to change.
Yeah, it's like young LeBron. It's like those teams in Cleveland. It's like you basically built that the way that team was built. It's like LeBron had to kind of carry it. Like you saw what happened the last time he was in Cleveland, right? Like he had his shooters, but it's literally like all those guys are dependent on LeBron to create stuff for them. Like they didn't have anybody else to create, and that's the main problem. So that being said, man, we're gonna get into a game, and then we're gonna get to some other stuff, and then wrap up. So Cleveland, Utah, Indiana, New Orleans, Sacramento, Washington, New York, Portland. I'm gonna go through those teams.
I don't have the money right now to travel to all of those places, Shane.
Well, you know, we can't always get what we want.
Can't always get.
You can't. Oh, but anyway, but you can follow the JWJ podcast on Twitter, and you can follow us on Instagram. Really,
That's
we
what you
like
can do.
even like we're still working on trying to get our content together for Twitter, that kind of stuff. We only got 7 followers on there. We've been running this
Do
since
better, folks.
we
Do
need y'all to do
better.
better.
Do
Because I
better.
mean, like we're putting stuff out. We just need y'all to follow us and show your support. So
The
if
hell.
you are still listening to us, we thank you and we appreciate you.
The
So
hell.
James, we're about to play a game.
A
And
game.
this one, we played what's the word before. I'm gonna call this one legit or not it. We're gonna talk about these improved teams. We're gonna talk about these disappointing teams, and simply we're just gonna say, do we think they're legit or do we think they're not it? So you ready?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. I think I'm ready.
All right, cool.
Who am I
So
here?
Cleveland, legit or not it?
I'm gonna say legit. I think Cleveland is absolutely about that life, as the phrase goes. I think Cleveland is 100% ready. Like you mentioned earlier, uh, with their guard play, Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland. I think they can make some things happen in the East. To me, the East is, as much as everybody's talking, to me, the East is still kind of shallow up top. We have Boston, we have Milwaukee. Philly is questionable, in my opinion, because health is clearly an issue with them already. Brooklyn, same thing. Like, we haven't even talked about everything that's been going on with Kyrie. Kevin Durant has been dealing with injuries over the last year or so. Just got Joe Harris back. The East is very shallow, and I think that it would be super easy for a team like Cleveland to creep up into the top 4.
Yeah.
So for that reason, I'm gonna say legit. How you feeling?
I'm with you. I'm gonna say legit. I think they've been knocking on that door. They have pretty much all the pieces in place to be where they are. And they have like that other guy with Darius Garland. I think, Colin Sexton wasn't as much of a fit as Donovan Mitchell is. I think those two guys being as dynamic as they are, and everybody else that they have, I think that's what makes them special. I think they're legit. Next team, Utah Jazz, legit or not it? They've won 12 of their first 20.
I'm gonna say not it. I don't think they stay the pace. I don't think it keeps going the way that it is. I think that they Utah's done a good job coming out the gate, but it's funny. It's always been that like fallback thing since I was in like high school, like middle school, high school, like 20 years ago. The West is always so deep, and I just don't feel like Utah is one of those teams that's going to be able to hold on for the long run. Right. I think they have started out well. I still have it in my gut that Danny Ainge is not finished. So I think leading up to the deadline, leading up to the trade deadline in February, it's not over. That team is going to change, because I still don't think that Danny Ainge is in the mindset where he wants that to stay the way that it is. Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna say not it. I don't think Utah is gonna stick it out for the long run, especially while they have all of these draft picks sitting in their pocket.
Yeah, I'm gonna say not it. Mainly because I think, like you said, it's the West. I think it's going to come down to attrition. I think the teams that aren't playing well right now that we expected to be up at the top of the West. I think eventually those teams will figure it out, and eventually the West is just going to kind of eat itself. So like those teams that are winning right now are probably going to start tailing off a little bit. Like, we like with Utah, it's like Will Hardy's done a great job. I think he's done a lot better than most people maybe predicted he would, but they're winning right now. But we always see this kind of every year. There's a team that starts off really well and then they kind of tail off. So I think that'll be them. They might just be showcasing the Markkanens or whoever for trade bait. I mean, that could be it. Are they in fact, steering the war machine, or are they legitimately like, okay, we're gonna win, but we also got these picks too? Like we're trying, like, are we trying to have our cake and eat it too?
Yeah.
So moving on, man. Indiana, we're gonna go to the East again. Indiana, legit or not it?
Indiana in the East, bro. I'm gonna say legit. I think if they keep the roster the way that it is, I think they definitely have a chance to make some moves in the postseason. I think they could shake some stuff up seriously. The big question with Indiana right now, though, is are they going to make any more moves? Because there's been the talks with LA. LA's been stubborn, about those 2 first rounders that they don't want to give up, even though that would immediately help your team. Whole other story. There's been the talks of that, and everything there in Indiana right now, I think just makes them look incredibly good. Yeah, like I said, you still have Buddy Hield, you still have Miles Turner, you still have a heck of a rookie in Benedict Mathurin. I think Indiana looks really good, and it's kind of the same thing in the East. A lot of people want to look at the NBA right now and pretend that like competition is super deep. It's not. It never is. And I think that with what Indiana has right now, it's pushing them up to compete with a Boston, a Milwaukee. Like I said, Philly and Brooklyn. They're going to be up there because of the superstars on their roster. But Philly and Brooklyn, they're not winning rings this year. I'll go ahead and say that now. Philly and Brooklyn, they're not winning rings this year. To me, the Eastern Conference Finals, and if y'all are following us on Instagram, you've already seen some of our picks for some of these awards and these winners. Stay tuned, because in the next couple of days, I'm actually going to make sure that we get posted our NBA champs as well as NBA Finals MVP. But one of the picks that I made was that representing the East in the NBA Finals was going to be the Milwaukee Bucks. I believe that the team that they're going to beat to get there is going to be the Boston Celtics. Those, to me, are the 2 best teams in the Eastern Conference. Indiana has the body to try to fight there, but it's not going to work. It's the way that they're built right now is not going to work. But at the same time, I think that they have the roster right now to at least get there to fight for it. So for that reason, I'm going to say that Indiana's legit.
Rick Carlisle's my guy as a former Mavs coach, but I'm kind of on the fence, but I'm gonna say not it. I'm gonna just say not it, just based on.
Ooh.
I'm gonna say not it, just because they're kind of that breakout team. They're kind of the Utah of the East right now. I think they're playing a lot better than people thought they would, and they have a lot of guys that you're excited about. But I ultimately think they'll be they'll be looking to sell around the trade deadline.
Mm.
They'll be looking to get out from under the Buddy Hields and the Miles Turners and try to find those guys new homes. So I think right now they're playing well. They're in a playoff position. I think a lot of the East is like the West in that even though a lot of those teams aren't winning in abundance, a lot of people are kind of in the same. Like you have your elite teams, like you have your Bostons, your Milwaukees, and all that, and then you have like that second tier. And I think, like we mentioned Philly, we mentioned Brooklyn. I think Brooklyn, I really like some of the things I've seen from them defensively here lately. I think they if they can be as good defensively as they were like last night or whenever it was when they played Toronto, if they're going to be that good defensively, Brooklyn might be a dark horse to do some things. Not saying they'd win a ring or nothing, but I think they'll be better than they've started for sure. Indiana, I think they're in that position to be sellers at the deadline, and I think they will be. So that's why I would say not it.
Okay.
I'm gonna pick up the pace a little bit with this one, but New Orleans. New Orleans right now 11-7. They're third in the West. They got Zion back. So James, the Pelicans, man, legit or not it?
All right. So if they can stay healthy, I think they're a legit postseason team.
Mm-hmm.
But if we're talking championship chase, not it. I think New Orleans lacks a lot of the cohesion that's necessary simply because a lot of their key guys just haven't been available. Zion has been hurt. They just got CJ last season. So I think that New Orleans is not ready for a title chase simply because they haven't had enough time to be together with their roster. So I'm going to say right now, New Orleans is, like I said, I'll go legit as far as I believe they can make the postseason. But as far as being an actual contender right now, I'm going to say not it.
I with New Orleans, I mean they got a lot to be excited about. They were a play-in team last year. So adding Zion to that, it remains to be seen how healthy he'll be. He's already missed some time, but
I was just about to say he's already missed some time.
Yeah. I'm gonna just say not it, just because even though I like their team and I like the different guys they have on that team,
right?
I think they might be a scary team to play in the postseason. They just have to make sure that they're healthy enough to get there first. So I'm gonna say not it right now. Sacramento, legit or not it?
Sacramento is. I'm gonna just be right up front. Sacramento is legit for the play-in. I don't. The way that they've started the season, they've looked damn good. And I know I made my jokes over the summer about the Queens and this and that. No, they're damn sure looking like kings right now. They're looking good. Championship good? No, I don't think so.
Got to walk before you can run.
There you go. And you got to crawl before you can walk. So I think they're legit from the standpoint of I could absolutely see them being a play-in team. I will go on record right now, and y'all can quote this. You don't have to quote this because we're recording it, and you can hear it as many times as you play back the JWJ podcast on Spotify, Anchor, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, wherever you want to listen to this. We're everywhere. But I'm going to go on record and say the Sacramento Kings are going to finish with a better record than my Lakers. And I feel like that's not even close. Which really sucks because we're going to be a lottery team and we've already given our pick for next summer away to New Orleans. So us being terrible right now is only helping the team that we were just talking about.
The
Um,
thought of Wemby and Zion is scary.
well, I mean, assuming Zion stays on the floor. So, I mean, I'm with you. But no, I think Sacramento is legit from the standpoint. I do think that they have the capability to make the play in, but as far as contending for a title, I would say not it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna say not it on the Kings, even though I like what they're doing so far. Kevin Herter is the best 3-point shooter in the league right now,
Man, come on.
and I mean he's balling. They got a lot of pieces there. They got the
Mm,
right coach, I think, for what they're trying to do, which is try to improve from the ground up and improve the culture there. They've been a revolving door and a turnstile for coaches for a long time, and a lot of guys have been there, maybe didn't even get the roster right, and now I think they got the coach right and they're starting to get the roster right. I think that's
yeah,
important.
Mike
Um,
Brown. Mike Brown has done some of his best work with younger stars,
right.
and that's where he is.
Yeah. I hope his quads are okay after that sprint in practice. Um, now, as far as his sprint, that was legit. Even
Oh,
though
oh,
I'm
absolutely,
sure he thought he was,
absolutely.
I'm sure he thought he was picking him up and putting him down. But I don't know. Be careful, coach. Be careful. But
Right.
I'm gonna say not it, just because they're a team that has been the laughing stock of the league, at least in the Western Conference, for a long time.
Yeah.
And I think they're still trying to wash the stink of the last, I don't know, 16 years off, from them not even sniffing playoff right now.
They'll
I
be in the
think
playoffs
they're
this year.
huh.
They'll be in the playoffs this year. They'll get
Yeah, they
bounced quickly, but
yeah,
they'll
I think they could be a tough out for a team depending on the matchup. But
they'll be
they still have a lot to prove. Now,
to
if
me
we get
they'll be this year's Minnesota.
yeah, yeah,
They'll fight their way in, and they're going to get bounced quick. But I
yeah,
think they do
yeah,
have the manpower to at least get there,
yeah.
and that's a start for a
I
team.
think they'll end up getting
Yeah.
swallowed up too.
Yeah, and that's a start for them for a team that hasn't seen the postseason in almost two
Right,
decades.
right.
I think they can make it, but they're not going to last long.
All right. So we got three more teams. We'll go ahead and rattle through them. Portland, legit or not it?
Oh
Got
man,
Dame back. Got Anthony Simons playing well.
I hate to do this right now. I'm gonna say not it. Um, Anthony Simons is looking good. He's looking very good, but that guy, your guy on the team, who is also my guy, you already know how I feel. You know, a pair of the shoes, Weber State jersey in the closet. He's already dealing with injury, and we're not even 20 games in. Portland's not ready. There, you haven't done anything to put any sort of quality, any sort of extra talent around Dame.
They do got Jeremy Grant, who's
Mm,
playing pretty decent.
yeah, he's playing decent. I mean, but Jeremy Grant doesn't do anything to help the guard play. Like I agree with you. Jeremy Grant has been playing well. I feel like I haven't heard Nurk's name at all this season.
Right.
The team has been super quiet. So if they creep up on anybody, it would be fair because there's been nothing to get us excited yet. Like to me, the only difference between them and Utah is over the summer, we got the impression that Utah was coming in wanting to lose. That's the only
Mm-hmm.
difference. Um, you already know me. I love Dame to death, man. He's one of my favorite players in the league, but I just haven't seen anything from Portland to convince me. So I gotta go with not it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Portland is still. I'm gonna say not it on them. I last year they won 27 games and
Mm-hmm.
they didn't sniff the playoffs, and
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was getting time. I think they need to just go ahead and blow it up and try to start over.
Mm,
I thought them getting rid of CJ kind of threw that into something a little bit of motion. Them getting Jeremy Grant kind of like, okay, they finally got a good wing there that could play, the 3 and 4 there.
right.
But there's still more that they need to add. I mean, Simons is a nice piece. The jury's still out. We still need to know if Chauncey Billups can coach. They are improved defensively.
Thank
Um,
God. Thank God he's getting more of a chance than Steve Nash.
yeah, yeah. But but anyway, like Portland, like I said, I mean, I need to just see more of them
Yeah.
and see. I just think like they're closer to not contending.
Yeah.
They're a lot closer to not contending than they are being a Western Conference finalist, like maybe they were a few years
A
back.
couple of years
So
ago.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna say not it. Washington,
Not it.
legit or not it?
Oh, sorry. I I've been giving my explanation first. That was probably the team that was the easiest for me to just say not it before I explained anything. Um, no, Washington ain't ready. I mean, even with my former Laker on the squad, man, I love Kuz, and Kyle Kuzma has been balling out. He's been doing his thing, but again, early on, just like I just mentioned with Dame, Bradley Beal is supposed to be the star of that team, and we're already seeing him missing time again.
Yeah.
Like if your star can't stay healthy and your roster's not that deep, like if we're being honest, Washington's roster is not that deep. Like we got Brad Beal who's dealing with the injuries. We got Kyle Kuzma. We got Rui Hachimura who has been looking good. Hachimura has been looking good early on in the season,
And Porzingis is there.
and Porzingis is there, and we got what's his name? Oh my goodness, the dude they just drafted. Was it last
Yeah,
year or
they
the year
have
before?
Denny Avdia.
Yeah, Denny. Yeah, they got Denny Avdia. So, but after that, what's left?
Right.
To me, like Washington, to me, the reason I'm gonna say what I say is because they're just not deep enough. If you're not deep enough to contend in the East, you're not gonna win a ring. Bottom line.
Yeah.
So for those reasons, I sound like I'm on Shark Tank right now. For those reasons, I'm gonna say Washington, not it.
Yeah. I'm gonna say not it as well. I think Washington in some ways is kind of in the same position as Sacramento. I think they're kind of that team that has some pieces that are intriguing, but there's still so much more that they need to add. I think with Sacramento, it's like they're just trying. I think they're like Washington is like Sacramento in that they're also trying to establish. They're trying to wash the stink off the dysfunction they've had year after year after year. It's always been something.
I feel like Sacramento would shoot Washington out the gym though.
Yeah, like
You
I
you
like
put them
there's a
you
lot
put
more
them
to be excited about. I think
yeah you
Washington, that lack of depth, like them being more
yeah
top heavy.
you
Like I
put you
like I like a Beal, I like a Porzingis and the wings they got there.
you
But
you put them in a 7 game shooting series. I put my money on it right now that Sacramento would sweep it in 4 games
yeah, and
if it's
that's
strictly a
fair.
shooting competition.
Yeah, and that's fair. I don't I got to see more from Washington before I would even take them seriously. So no, I'm
Mm.
gonna say not it. Lastly, with the most improved teams on my list, we're gonna go to New York. We're going with the Knicks.
Ooh.
So far, they've been the definition of average at 9-9. They're
Ooh.
seventh in the East right now after missing the playoffs last year. So, James, the New York Knicks,
Ooh.
legit or not it?
Saving that for last. Ooh. Oh man. Um Look, I gotta sit here and run through my brain right now. Whew. I I hate to be so contradictory again. I'm going to say when it comes to at least being a playoff team, I think the Knicks are absolutely legit. When it comes to trying to contend for a ring, get the hell out of here. They're not a title contender by any means. So from that aspect, they're absolutely not it. If we're talking just simply making the playoffs, I think they have all the tools necessary. But when it comes to fighting for a ring, hell no.
Yeah,
I'm
I'm gonna
not
say
it.
I'm gonna say not it. I do think they could make the playoffs, but when I see them, I just think something's missing. Something's missing. It's hard to put a finger on it, but something's missing. I think getting Jalen Brunson is huge for them. RJ Barrett, if he takes a leap, I think they got something there. They still don't know what they want to do with Julius Randle. I think they want him out.
My
Um,
finger, my finger is still the fact that you're looking at your front court and you expect Obi Toppin to be one of those guys that's going to carry you somewhere.
right. And I just when I look at Obi Toppin, I don't see a guy that I don't see all-star. I don't
Not at
see
all.
like
No.
I see a guy that could carve out a 12-year career, but I don't see a guy that you're like saying, okay, this is one of the cornerstones of the franchise. I
Agreed.
think they're still trying to get that particular spot right. I mean,
Yeah.
what they had Kevin Knox, they had Cam Reddish, like they had these dudes, and you're like, okay, and none of those dudes have really like panned out yet. They have some veterans there, but not that many. I just think I'm gonna just say not it. I think there's something missing. I think they will
Yeah.
make the playoffs,
Yeah.
but I don't think they'll go very far. They
They'll
still need like another piece or two.
they'll make it and get bounced quick.
Yeah. So that's legit or not it. If you're listening to this on YouTube, um, leave us a comment. Let us know what do y'all think of our new game? What do y'all think of our picks? What do you think of the most improved players? What do you think of the teams that are surprising or disappointing? Let us know. Um, moving to some other things before we get up out of here, man. Looking at your Lakers,
Oh
one of
boy.
your free agent acquisitions, Patrick Beverly, was suspended for 3 games for pushing DeAndre Ayton. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts of the league is absolutely whack. Um, I this isn't even me being a homer, but the league has to be more consistent with how they handle certain things. Because at the end of the day, if we look at that situation, we look at the entire situation. Devin Booker commits the foul. Who was it? I believe it was Austin Reeves goes to the floor. Um, DeAndre Ayton ends up stands over the top of him. And Patrick Beverly's response was to back up his teammate and push DeAndre Ayton out of the way. Now, my immediate question for that situation, and this is why the league annoys me, in your opinion, Shane, if this had been the exact same game, but let's say Ron Artest played for the Phoenix Suns and Ron Artest stood over the top of Austin Reeves, what would the referees have done?
Yeah, there would have been ejections, everything.
Exactly. Do your job. Patrick Beverly stepped in and did your job. He let this player know standing over his teammate is not going to fly. So a 3-game suspension to me is absolutely whack. It's absolute BS. You want to give him 1 game? Okay, I would even still argue with that. But a 3-game suspension to me is absolute BS. I feel like there's been so many times in the league where if a player stands over another player, that intimidation factor immediately calls for a tech. And the fact that it didn't happen in that situation, you left it open for whatever these other players do.
Right.
You left it open for that. And on top of that, Devin Booker, sit your behind down somewhere. Or you want to talk about, oh, you're pushing a player in the back. At least DeAndre Ayton was standing flat-footed on the floor. Let's not talk about what you did when we played y'all a couple of years ago. Let's not talk about that. But I'm not even going to go there. How do you feel about it, Shane? I personally, like I said, absolute BS. It wouldn't have even gotten that far if the refs had done their job. But how do you feel?
There's pushing and shoving all the time. Like, I'm like you said, he stood over the dude, so that's taunting. That's a technical foul.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like Pat Bev, being who Pat Bev is, he's gonna step in and do something.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he should have been suspended at all. I don't
Right.
like me personally. I'm like, if you wanna find somebody, or you just want to say, okay, technical foul, whatever.
Right.
I don't think a suspension is warranted there, because
Yeah.
it was like, we've seen dust ups before where people will push and that kind of thing. They get separated, cooler heads prevail, technical fouls are handed out, that kind of thing.
Even if you
I don't think suspension.
even if you eject him for the rest of that game.
Yeah.
But the suspension was ridiculous.
Yeah. I don't agree with that. And I think that's BS too. Like, I think because it's Pat Bev, because of the whole situation, and they probably felt like it was a situation that he escalated. That's them just making a move because it's who it is. Because I mean, we've seen pushing and shoving before, and guys not get suspended. So I don't think they should have made that move.
Right.
But our last order of business on our podcast today, we're gonna switch gears to the ladies. WNBA. A few notes there. Candace Parker, after some talk that she was thinking about retirement. She was tearful in some of those things. She's actually announced that she will be returning for year 16. And also in that same vein, Diana Taurasi, our best friend from the Hall of Fame.
She might not realize it, but that's our best friend.
Yeah, she might not realize it, but that's our best friend, and she was shout out to her for being extremely gracious.
Yes.
To be more than accommodating for us when we met her at the Hall of Fame.
I have her autograph on the shelf right over here.
Yeah, me too. I don't have it displayed in my office here, but yeah. Shout out to her. She'll be coming back.
We
for
love
year
you,
19.
Diana. We love you, Diana.
So she'll be back for year 19 this year. So James, with those two players, them coming back, what are your thoughts on that?
It's just amazing to see, man. I would love to see both of them, go out with another ring. We know that's not going to be possible. I mean, they play in opposing conferences. How dope would it be if, like, both of them decided that this upcoming season was their final, and the Chicago Sky and the Phoenix Mercury made it to the finals this year? This would be one time when I would actually be okay with the Atlanta Dream not getting there. This would be one time or the Aces. I mean, they just got their ring. So I mean, anybody, it is worth saying. Same thing with the NBA. I have favorite players. I have favorite teams. When it comes to the WNBA, Candace Parker, Diana Taurasi, Sue Bird, y'all know how I feel. Those are some of my favorite ladies I've ever seen play the game. As far as teams go, I always rep those Las Vegas Aces. I mean, I lived in Vegas for almost a decade. Lived out there, enjoyed the life. That was before the team was even there. So I'm always partial to Vegas. And now that I'm here, in the A, I'm back here in Georgia. I absolutely love the Atlanta Dream, and I want to rep them in every way I can. But I I would love to see those two teams go at it. It's probably not going to happen just looking at the way that it is. I mean, both teams did make the playoffs last year. So that flipped, the chances in the lottery, we'll that's one thing we'll talk about that in a minute. But yeah, it's exciting all around, but it's one of those things that is almost like surreal and kind of sad in a way, because even though these two legends are both coming back for another year, we still have to kind of like sit on our hands and ask ourselves, is this it? Is this the last time we're gonna see them? So it's like we're excited that they're coming back, but at the same time, is this my last chance to to see them? So it
Yeah,
it kind of hurts in a way.
it's like it's the last of that old guard, man. It's like you
Mm-hmm.
think about like all the players that when you think of women's basketball, like you think of Diana Taurasi and Sue Bird and Maya Moore and Candace Parker and
Yeah,
like all these great players.
yeah,
And like Sue Bird hung it up after last year. That was a sad deal. Like if I had to look at both players, I would definitely say Diana definitely has more in the tank. I think
yeah.
Candace, with the way she played, down the stretch, I think she kind of looked like she was losing steps too. I
Mm-hmm.
think it was kind of more, I think her reason for coming back is like, I think she knows she could probably play better. She feels that she could play better, and she doesn't want to go out like she was last seen. Like she wants to leave a more of a savory taste in the mouths of her fans and that kind of thing.
Yeah,
Diana, she can play as long as she wants to. Like
yeah.
she's that special of a player.
Diana smooth, man.
Yeah, like when you can put the ball in the hole, like the longevity is going to be there as long as she doesn't have any big injuries. She had some injuries last year, but I think
I
as
won't
long as she's relatively healthy and productive, I think she could play as long as she wants. It's just a matter if she wants to or not.
I won't even get too deep into it because it still just bothers me so much. Could you imagine how much longer Diana's career could be extended if she could still play alongside Brittany Griner?
Yeah.
I don't even want to. I know we got to wrap up in a minute. I won't even go deep into that, but that's
Yeah.
still just super troublesome.
Yeah,
Um,
because I mean, I mean, they were a championship team when
yeah,
Brittany Griner was there, and
yeah,
they were a team that was a force to be reckoned with. You take a 6'8" dunking, shot blocking presence
yeah.
out of that atmosphere, like it's gonna be tough for anybody.
It hurts, man.
Yeah, it
It's
hurts, and like I said, I think Diana, she can play as long as she wants.
yeah.
Um, we were talking before we got on here. I mentioned Maya Moore a minute ago. I would love to see Maya Moore come back.
Look,
Uh,
look, and while you talking about Maya Moore, I gotta go ahead and throw that stat out there. Remember what we talked about before we got on?
right.
So Maya Moore was drafted in 2011. The last time she played was in the 2018 season for the WNBA. I gotta let the fans know, everybody that's listening. I don't know how aware you are of this, but I gotta make this known. From 2011 to 2018, Maya Moore played in 271 regular season WNBA games. She played in 56 postseason games. All of those games were with the Minnesota Lynx. She won 4 titles while she was playing for Minnesota. Here's the thing that is beautiful to me: 271 regular season games, 56 postseason games, 4 titles. Maya Moore started every single game that she played in the WNBA. 271 regular season games, 56 postseason games, 4 titles. She started every single game that she played from 2011 to 2018, over a 34 game season. She only missed one game. She only missed one game. She played all 34 games from 2011 to 2018, with the exception of one game missed in 2015.
Yeah.
This woman started every single game of her WNBA career, regular and postseason.
And she's only 33. I think
Beast.
it'd be a hell of a story if she was able to come back and play again.
I really hope she does. I
Even
really
if
do.
even if it's like one more year or whatever, I would just love to see her
Yeah.
play again. I mean,
I really hope she does.
you know, she's that impactful of a player. Now her cause for taking a sabbatical, that's super respectable. It's been well
Yeah,
publicized. But
absolutely.
I just love to see her come back. That
Absolutely.
being said, like I mentioned, like seeing her come back, and I threw this out there because they just announced the WNBA draft lottery order. The Indiana Fever get the number one pick in the April draft. Last time they won a title was 2012. They won conference titles in 2009, 2012, and 2015. So they got the number one pick. The
When's the
Minnesota
when's
Lynx.
when's the last time they got the number one pick, Shane? Trick question.
There
Never.
you go. So they're number one. The Minnesota Lynx will pick second. The Atlanta Dream will pick third, and they've done really well in their recent drafts.
Listen.
The Dream have, and then the Washington Mystics are number 4.
Yeah. So you remember what I told you when we were talking over the summer about the WNBA? I was talking about, what was going to happen as far as they've had top 4 picks, if I remember right, over, like, this will be their, I want to say, 4th top 4 pick in the last 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
They took Ryan Howard, they got Ari McDonald, and I even said it over the summer. I was like, Atlanta's about to be on the move, and it's gonna happen again. The one thing that sucks here is, to me, there's easily a consensus at number 1. Indiana, congratulations in advance on drafting Aaliyah Boston out of South Carolina. It's not even up for discussion. We're gonna go ahead and start putting that in the atmosphere now.
Mm-hmm.
Aaliyah Boston will be going from South Carolina to Indiana. It is what it is. But outside of that, I'm really interested to see where this draft goes. And I think that no matter how it goes, it's gonna help all 4 of these teams. Indiana is already gonna get that leg up, with drafting Boston. Minnesota, Atlanta, Washington. I think the one team out of those 3 that could really benefit from, making a solid move is going to be Washington.
Mm-hmm.
They barely missed out on the postseason this past year. So to me, they're the one team out of those 4 that can make the most moves going into next season and possibly improve their status. So I'm interested to see what Washington does in this draft, but I'm really interested all the way around. Like I said, Indiana doesn't surprise me at all. We know where that's going. I'm looking at 2, 3, and 4 at this point, because Indiana, we know what that is.
Yeah. And yeah, man, I like I said, I mean, it's It's gonna be interesting. It's like you want to. I want to see who Atlanta goes out and gets to go with the recent drafts they've had. I mean, I
Yeah.
feel like they can continue to pile on because there's gonna be good prospects there.
I feel like they gotta
Um,
go big.
yeah,
I feel like they have to go with they and when we're talking about women's hoops, I feel bad saying it, but I'm like, I feel like they gotta go with a big man.
hmm
They I feel like the guards in Atlanta are decent right now. They gotta go with a big. They gotta look at the front court. Ryan
yeah.
Howard clearly has shown that she can handle her business, but I almost look at it like I would look at Vegas right now. You know, you have Asia Wilson. Um, but you have to make sure you're putting the right things around those players. And Asia can clearly do what she does. She has superb guards around her. In, you know, Kelsey Plum, Jackie Young, you know, Chelsea Gray. Shout out to the Finals MVP. Like, it's all about what you put around it. I think in Atlanta's case, you have guards there that can do the work. Again, I'm gonna shout out Ari McDonald. That's my girl. You already know how I feel, man. Right? Going back to Arizona, that's my girl. Like, I think that Ari can really take the reins. But yeah, I think Ari can take the reins, but I do think that Ryan Howard is going to need a little more help in the front court. I think you got to get another big body up front, and that's gonna be what turns the corner for Atlanta.
Yeah, and that being said, man, it feels good to be able to do this again. It's
I
been a
miss
while
you,
since our last
man.
episode. Yeah, yeah, man. The feeling's mutual. It's been a lot going on in life, both with work, personal
Listen,
lives.
bro.
You know, people becoming new dads. We
Uh,
got work getting crazy.
the
So it's
hashtag girl dad.
yeah, man. Congratulations, little lady's what 3 weeks old now?
Man, she'll be a month on Monday, the
Yeah,
28th,
so
bro.
it's
Yeah,
moving fast, man.
it's,
It's been quite a change.
yeah, man. It's a lot going on. But again, I'll say, everybody that's listening, please understand, we did not stop thinking about y'all. We have been trying our hardest to get out here and do this the last few weeks. And like my boy said, life has been kicking our behinds. So we're here. Please understand, we ain't going nowhere.
We're gonna keep showing up, and we want y'all to keep following us on the journey, man. So
Yes.
you know the drill. We've been plugging it throughout our show. Um, you know the usual. If you've made it this far, we appreciate you. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody that's listening. Um, we 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 put down our turkey legs so we could do this and put together another episode for you guys. It's episode what episode is this? 16, 17?
This is
16.
16. Yeah,
Episode 16.
make sure y'all do this favor. Look, we've been plugging it the entire episode. Make sure y'all check for us Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. If you go to our individual Instagram profiles, with my boy here, we got Mr. Shane Thomas at It's a Thomas Thing. That's capital ITSA, capital THOMAS, capital THING. You got me over at Title Towns Mayor. That's TITLETOWNZMAYOR. If you go to those pages and follow us, you will notice in both of our bios there is a link tree link that will take you to any outlet that you want to possibly follow us on. That's Apple Podcasts, that's Spotify, that's iHeartRadio, like you name it, we are there. We're trying to get you guys listening. We're trying to get you guys active. Make sure you follow us. Make sure you comment individually as a group, at the JWJ podcast. Just make sure you follow us, show us some love. Let us know where you got hip to it and tell all of your friends. That's all we want.
And I got to think about this. It just hit me. If you want to weigh in, we will start reading fan mail. If you guys want to chime in, you can email us at the jwjpodcast@gmail.com.
Yeah, man.
We will read your thing on air.
Yes.
And we'll discuss whatever you want to talk about.
Yes.
So feel free. And for those that are listening or claim that they've been listening and I don't know where to find y'all. You literally can find us everywhere now. So there's no excuse.
Everywhere. Yes. No. But at the end of the day, I'm sure I speak for both of us. We're gonna go ahead and wrap it up. We just want to thank y'all for sticking with us. Like it's been a long time since we were able to do this. I mean, we've been looking at like almost a month now. Yeah. But it's we're here. We're not giving up. We love this. Again, we'll talk. This is a passion project for both of us. It's something that we've talked about for, a decade at this point. Hey, Shane, we still owe him that episode. But,
yeah, it's still coming. Y'all, I'm sure a lot of you still want to know what JWJ stands for.
Yeah, so
we're going to dedicate a whole episode to that soon. We're not going to tell you.
Absolutely.
You gotta stay tuned and follow us so you can get that episode. There's Definitely. A lot that's gone into this project.
Definitely.
A lot of thought, a lot of phone conversations that could have been episodes.
Everybody talks about the blood, sweat, and tears. Yeah. Say we won't say blood, sweat, and tears. We'll say sweat, tears, and swollen ankles. Yeah. But listen, y'all. If you're still here, like Shane said, man, we really appreciate y'all, and this is something that we really, really are taking to heart. So we just genuinely appreciate the fact that y'all are even giving us the opportunity to bless your ears. On behalf of my boy, on behalf of myself, look, I just want to once again thank y'all, tell y'all that we appreciate y'all, and I'm gonna wrap this up real quick, and I'm gonna say thank you for tuning in to JWJ.
See y'all tomorrow.